Hey, bienvenidos! My name is Jet Li. This is Reading with Your Kids. We are beaming out to you and the entire planet from the beautiful, book-loving neighborhood of Reedville, the loveliest neighborhood in all of Boston. At Reading with Your Kids, our mission is simple but powerful, to bring families together through the shared magic of books and stories. In every episode, we sit down with fascinating folks who are creating books that open hearts and spark imaginations. Please help spread the word by telling all of your family and friends about the show and letting them know that they can hear us on the WREB AM/FM 24/7 radio network. And they can find us on the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Good Pod, YouTube, Podcast Addict, Amazon Music, Audible. Wherever you find your favorite shows, you can find Reading with Your Kids. Really wonderful show for you today. First up, Julie Abe is here to celebrate her middle grade novel, The Magic Library of Waterfall Way. Later in the show, Fran Litch is here to celebrate her middle grade novel. It's called Weeper. Hey, if you're the author of a fantastic children's book, we want you to join the mission. You know, for nearly 10 years here on Reading with Your Kids, I've had the privilege of interviewing hundreds, if not thousands, of children's authors. I've learned something important. The world doesn't have a shortage of wonderful children's books. The world has a shortage of people hearing about those wonderful children's books. That's why we created the Certified Great Read program. Of course, we're proud to recognize outstanding books, but recognition is not really the point. Connection is. Every Certified Great Read is part of a much bigger mission, helping books find readers, helping parents discover stories they'll treasure, helping teachers fill their classrooms with books that inspire curiosity, helping librarians, booksellers, grandparents, and caregivers discover titles they'll be excited to recommend. When your book becomes a Certified Great Read, you're not simply receiving recognition. You're joining a community committed to celebrating reading. You'll receive reviews, promotional materials, videos, graphics, podcast exposure, press coverage, and our signature 30-day celebration adventure, all designed to keep your book in front of readers long after launch day. Because here at Reading with Your Kids, we believe something very simple. Reading becomes powerful when it's celebrated, shared, and connected to real people. That mission speaks to you. We'd love to hear from you. Please visit readingwithyourkids.com. Click on the Authors Click Here button up at the top of the page and scroll on down to Certified Great Read. Let's help more families grow closer through reading and help more kids fall in love with your book. Join us right now from Southern California. Our guest is here today to celebrate her cozy middle grade fantasy. It's called The Magic Library of Waterfall Way. Please welcome to the show, Julie Abe. Julie, how are you? Welcome.
Hi, I'm doing great. I'm getting piled in with deadlines, but other than that, writing, life is writing, so that's good.
Yeah, I guess deadlines are a really good thing to have because you ain't got deadlines, no one interested in your work.
That is true. I appreciate the many, many things that are going on, so it's all good things, for sure.
This must be an exciting time for you. You have a lot of interest from publishers and readers. How does that feel?
It's been so exciting. I've been writing for, more than 15 years, pursuing publication for more than 15 years now. And to have books out on shelves, to have readers, reach out and say that their book helped them in a rough spot, that means everything.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. I made a living doing educational magic shows for 35 years. And so I knew when my stuff was hitting, I knew right away. And when my stuff wasn't hitting, I also knew right away. It's different for an author because you're creating kind of like in a vacuum, you're creating this stuff and you're getting feedback from an agent maybe or an editor. And I was surprised to hear that it can take 2, 3, 4 years from the time a book is bought till it gets on the shelf. So from the moment that you write a sentence that's impactful for somebody, it might take 4, 5, 6 years before you hear back.
Exactly. Like it's a lot of waiting, a lot of hoping, and sometimes nothing happens.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of, putting yourself out there and getting a lot of no's, but those yeses that you get really do turn into something beautiful.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm glad you brought up no's, because it's so important, especially if you're creating or performing. You got to send out 100. You got to get 100 no's before you get that first yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Like when I first started querying, oh gosh, years ago now, more than a decade ago, I queried a different story, a young adult novel, and all I got were no's. And I was so ready to give up with writing. I was like, this is a sign. Like the no's are a sign, right? It's clearly like when you're not going anywhere with this and your work isn't resonating, which is, as a writer, what matters the most. And then when I was going through all those no's, I thought of a character who was getting a lot of no's and still kept trying. And so that character became the protagonist of my first book, which became eventually, I queried it, and eventually it became published. And actually, what's so special is one of the people who read that book and enjoyed the story so much became my editor for the Magic Library of Waterfall Way, that's coming out very soon.
Very cool. So let's talk about the Magic Library of Waterfall Way. What is a cozy middle grade fantasy?
Oh my gosh, that is like the perfect question. So, of course, I'll start with the easy parts, right?
Okay.
Middle grade, that's usually for readers from 8 to 12 years old, except I've had some younger readers who listen on audio, many adult readers that read my stories as well. So, middle grade is, I almost, it's almost like it's not exactly a fit in a way, but it is where it's shelved, right? So I'll accept that. Fantasy, of course, it's like a magical adventure, right? You go places that you would never be able to visit in the real world. But what people seem to resonate a lot with from my stories is that cozy part.
Okay.
And I was actually thinking about when I first got that label applied to my stories, I actually was like, what is cozy? Like, is it like a campfire and you're just hanging out there the whole time? Because there's no really campfires in my stories, and they're like on adventures and they're like doing things and there's stakes. There's all of that. But then I realized what makes my stories cozy is the feeling on page and in the readers, for the readers, where they feel like safe.
Mm-hmm.
They feel safe in the pages of my story, and they know that I'm not. There are a few twists, don't take anything for granted, right? But there's safety in the story, and then they can come out on the other side and not feel devastated, but feel like uplifted and hopeful. And when there's so much going on in the world,
mm-hmm.
sometimes all you need is a cozy story to make you feel like you're just, all is well with the world.
Yeah. So there's no demons coming up and consuming a side character.
Well, there are book dragons that are kind of like grotesque and like they eat books and they want to burn books, so they're kind of awful.
Mm-hmm.
So it's my kind of demon.
Well, I remember one of the first movies, and now I'm almost 100 years old, but one of the first movies that scared me, and then I read it as a book, was Fahrenheit 451.
Oh my gosh.
And that image of this government coming around and burning books and burning ideas was, as a kid, that freaked me out.
Actually, Ray Bradbury, who wrote 451, his stories inspired me to take my first foray into writing years ago. So it's so funny that you mentioned him because, so in middle school, like through all my life, I never thought I would be an author, which is a little strange now that I look back, right? But in middle school, Miss Johnson from my school, she assigned as an assignment to write a short story based on a Martian Chronicle, right? There's short little stories all together in a novella, in a novel. And, so the goal was make your own Martian Chronicle. And I was like, but I can't write. Like, what am I doing with this assignment? I'm going to fail it. And I was like, I don't know how to do this. And when I started writing, because I was like, I need my grades, I might as well try. When I started writing, I was like, whoa, this is fun. And I never thought too much of that till later. But that helped me realize, wow, I love books. I've always loved books as a kid. Like, it was my safety, my haven. But writing as well sparked that joy for me, too.
Cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So you told us that the main character in your first book was somebody who was getting a lot of no's.
Mm-hmm.
Who inspired or what inspired the character of Lyra Hunt?
So Lyra Hunt is also a character that gets a lot of no's. I think I kind of have
Story of your life.
Yes, exactly. Real life. Life is hard, right? So let's go get these cozy stories. So Lyra, her story is she's an 11-year-old girl. She has a unremarkable fate. So in the realm that she lives in, because this is not like America, this is like magical world that I've, placed her into for her trials and tough life. She has to be placed in a guild to be able to stay. And if she doesn't find a guild by the time she turns 12 years old, then she's out of luck. She gets banished to the mists, where there's book dragons and mistwalkers and all sorts of, evil creatures, right? So she's running out of chances to find a guild. And her last chance is this guild that she stumbles upon called the Guild of Scholars. And they're not popular, so they only have one quest. Fix a magical library, but if she doesn't finish it, she'll be banished. And so, for me personally, the thing that actually sort of sparked the magic library of Waterfall Way was the word prophecy makers. So like I get a lot of ideas that just like pop in my head, and I like think about it, and it just like goes off into the wind and never comes back again. But that word prophecy maker, that came back to me again and again, and I was like, I want to write a story about it. And originally, actually, the story was named The Prophecy Makers. So a lot of that word stuck to me because you can get assigned a fate, right? You can be told that you're unremarkable, that you're super lucky and blessed and have this perfect life ahead of you because you're just that talented, right? But for me, Lyra is someone who's not talented, but she's willing to do her best and put in the work to give herself a future. And so even if she's unremarkable, even if there's no guild that wants to take her in, that's like me and my writing. Like sometimes I don't feel very talented. And like when I get feedback from editors, I'm like, oh, I have so far to go. Or when I get a rejection, I don't feel talented. And so I wrote a lot of that into Lyra, into her story, with a thought of step by step, word by word, things I can try to make a difference.
Yeah. In some ways, I think those unremarkable kids, I know if you're unremarkable, you kind of sit back and go, well, that kid's great at sports, and that kid's great at science, and that kid's great at writing. But I think that greatness comes with an awful lot of pressure and expectations. And I think the kids who kind of like fall in the middle, who kind of like Lyra, who are just like, hey, I don't have that, but I got heart. And if I work really hard, I can make something for myself. I actually think those kids are a little luckier and better off than the kids with the remarkable talent.
I mean, I think given where Lyra ends at the end, I agree.
There you go. Look at that. All right. All right.
I agree.
It's funny, I don't know. It's been a long time. When you were a kid, when you were 11 years old, were you feeling that? Like, what? I'm not good at this. I'm not good at anything.
Yes. Like one of the things that I wrote, one of the reasons why books are so important to Lyra is because they were so important to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have to be honest, I was like, we talk about like the cool kids that like, they have those talents. Like I didn't have a talent. And to be honest, like I didn't have a lot of friends either. Like I was not a cool kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Lyra experiences a lot of that as well, right? She's being pushed from guild to guild and no one wants to take her in because she's got this, unremarkable status on her birth certificate. And what she has through all of her travels and through all the rejections are the books. Because the books are her friend. The books will never tell her, like, you're not cool enough to sit with us, or you're not good enough to be in our guild. And books accept her for, like, who she is and give her a place to sort of escape. Mm-hmm. And as a little kid, like, as an 11-year-old, as an 8-year-old, that was me. Like, I wasn't very popular. I didn't have a lot of friends. And so during recess or, like, when we had lunchtime, like I would go to the library and hang out. And my books were my friends that hung out with me too.
Yeah, that's cool.
So it's my love letter to books as well, this story. Yeah. It really is.
The library is a place I spent a lot of time, but it was because if I didn't go to the library and create something, I'd be in the principal's office because, that's just who I was.
So you're one of the cool kids that I saw on the other side.
I'm not going to say I was cool. I was loud. I was obnoxious. I
think I would have been like, wow, magic, this guy with all the magic tricks is pretty sweet.
Well, no, that's funny. I never did a magic trick. I never saw a magic show live until I was in my 20s.
Oh, wow.
I came out of college and going into social work and was working with kids in the juvenile justice system. And I did that for a long time until I burnt out. And then I said, I'm going to become a professional clown. And that's what I did. And it seemed like it worked out great. It was a natural progression for me. So tell me as you're creating this magical universe for Lyra and the other characters, how do you keep the physics of the universe you're creating straight? Do you ever get to the point where it's like, oh, I want to do this, and you go, chapter 1, I said this, and do you ever find yourself going back and saying, I want to change this so I can do this in chapter 15?
Oh my gosh, it's a lot to keep track of a world that does not exist. Mm-hmm. So for me, like I have to have, of course I have my manuscript, right? Where, it's what the reader sees. On the back end, I've got my Google Slides and my Google Docs with all sorts of notes of, I need to remember this, like these are the ranks, this is what this person wears, and this is what that other person wears, and these are the foods that are in the world. And it takes a lot for me to create that. But one of the things I've found about writing is that I actually really love places. I think that has to do with like the way that people see the cozy things, right? Uh-huh. In my stories. Like Waterfall Way. That's the village where Lyra ends up, right? It's this beautiful, charming little village in the mountains where there's mountains surrounding them and they're like in a little valley, right? And there's waterfalls trickling down on each side, and each mountain has like beautiful flowers. Or like the library has special rooms, and like there's an ocean of knowledge in one of the rooms. And there's like little bits of sand with words of books printed on it. So like those parts like spark my imagination. They're so fun to create for me. But on the realistic side, I have to write everything down, otherwise I forget it. And I put in page 1 and then I forget on page 10. So yeah, there's the practical and then there's the dreamer side as well.
Do you carry a notebook, or do you take out the phone when those ideas come and just put them down?
I have to put it all on my, all digital now, because if I were to put a notebook, I am like a squirrel. I will put something somewhere and then I'll look for it. I'll be like, where did it go? So digital is usually the best, because control and find and to find things goes a long way, where my squirrel brain doesn't remember.
Hey, one of the things we want to do here at Reading with Your Kids is to inspire families to read more together. And of course, when you hear that, you think, oh yeah, curled up on the couch reading a picture book. But I was really pleasantly surprised when my daughter was in second grade and starting to read independently. And I was kind of bummed out until one day her teacher pulled me aside, very big, strong Irish lady. And she said, you got to keep reading to her. And I said, thank you. That was great. And we continued to read together through high school. I remember she came home, we read In Cold Blood together. But we co-read it, she would read it independently, come together. If a family is reading The Magic Library of Waterfall Way aloud, or if they're co-reading it, what kind of conversations do you think the book will inspire?
Oh my gosh. First off, I love co-reading and group reading. I get messages on Instagram of I read one of your stories with my daughter and it was so fun. And that's one of the most sweetest things and family connecting activities that I could think of. So I'm obsessed with it. But as for the Magic Library of Waterfall Way, I would say a lot of thought would come towards books. Not just, how much I love books as a reader or as an author, but books and the restriction of knowledge, and how it benefits or does not benefit a society. When you learn from other people's experiences, such as in a book, I think you don't have to necessarily take, that perspective of that protagonist or whoever it may be, but it does expand your world a little bit more. And so one of the things I would love to see parents and kids read together and think about is, the power of books. Yes, it's ink on paper or it's words in the air that are floating by, but what does it create and what change can it create in the world? Or, what does it help you understand better?
That's one of the things I love about books. Being able to, I remember that I read Mystic River by Dennis Lehane, set here in Boston. And there was a scene where a daughter goes, everybody knows in the neighborhood there's a girl went missing, and the dad couldn't find his teenage daughter, and we're in the mind of the dad. And I'm like, man, that would be me if my daughter was missing. And just, being able to see the world through a different set of eyes. I think books are a huge help for that. We're always talking about how important that is to take, walk a mile in someone's shoes or look through someone else's perspective. It's a lot easier said than done, and books are a great help with that.
Exactly. Oh, I did think of one other thing.
Oh,
and I think this may be a good conversation starter for parents and kids, because Lyra goes through some tough times, and there's sometimes she tries to make friends with people and they don't necessarily reciprocate. And I think kids struggle with that as well, right? Where they have social situations or even school situations where they're not sure what to do. And my hope is that if they're co-reading this, the parents may be able to ask if back in the day for me, this thing happened for me, just like Lyra, and this is what I did, in a non-pressure way, because sometimes kids don't want to talk about their struggles, right? But I think it might help open up the conversation for parents and kids, to see hey, my mom or my dad went through X, Y, and Z. Like, they went through a tough time too. It's not just me. Like, maybe I can, talk to them about something that's happened.
Yeah, yeah. Always easier talking about a problem that a character is having instead of talking about a problem you might be having.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all things I hope for with those parent-kid reading times. Yes.
Hey, I was checking out your social media, and I saw that there was a little bit of a controversy surrounding this book, that people were ordering a basic edition, and then the publisher
Oh my
said,
gosh.
"Oh, this deluxe edition is so good, we're going to cancel all those orders. Deluxe." What's going on with that?
Oh, I was surprised. So I found out I found out oh, your book got canceled. And I was like, what? What happened? And turns out it was kind of a good thing. But my publisher, then this is just for paper copies, right? But my publisher did something really amazing, and I'm super lucky to have an early version, but for the folks that are listening to this, they can't see it, but it's beautiful. There's sprayed edges with little floating books all around it, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But what my publisher did is they're like, well, if people think they're getting this version, but they order the basic version and doesn't have it, they're going to be upset. And so for the first printing, it's just a special edition of the hardcover with the painted edges, the sprayed edges, with the little cute enchanted books. But that meant, unfortunately, that the basic edition that didn't have any sprayed edges had to get canceled. And so there was no magical way on the back end. We don't live in a magical world, right? To convert those orders over from basic to the deluxe edition. So the basic orders did end up getting canceled.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, knock on wood, that the folks that got their orders canceled will switch over and reorder the deluxe version.
Yeah, you would hope that somebody would have the wherewithal to tell those people, yo, we had a little bit of problem, but just reorder the deluxe edition, everything would be cool.
Yes, but I think all they got was canceled.
Yes. Of course, because we don't have technology that can send messages.
Yes. Well, that's why they went to social media, right? Social media is a lot.
That is good. That is good. Hey, how does it feel to be, an author that a publishing company said, hey, this book is pretty special, and we're going to do something pretty special for it?
I am so obsessed with Bloomsbury. They have been so sweet, so amazing. I am very grateful to have them as in my corner as my publishing team, because they've just, from marketing to my editor to publicity, to the cover designer, everything, they've really done great work. And I wish I could give them hugs all the time. I really appreciate them.
That's great. Hey, can you give us an idea of the next project?
Yes. And I want to talk about it all the time. So technically the Magic Library of Waterfall Way is my next project that's coming out.
Okay.
But what I've been really busy working on is the sequel to the Magic Library of Waterfall Way. And I love a good series. I love standalones for sure, but I also love a good series. And so book 1 for Lyra's story is about a library, right? And I was thinking what can book 2 be about? I had all these ideas. I wrote a full draft. I had to toss it. I wrote another draft. I had to toss most of it. But at the end, we never stop trying, right? We always get the no's, but then we try for that yes. The final story ended up being about Lyra creating a bookstore.
Oh.
And
okay.
So for me, being as book as obsessed as I am, what better way to honor books with first a story about a library and second a story about a bookstore,
Very
right?
Good. Very good.
I saw it early draft of the cover, and it is just the most cozy, sweet, enchanting cover in a bookstore, and I'm so excited. I can't wait to share it, but I can't yet because I don't have the final. So
that's okay. Well, let's do this. Let's just let you know that you have an open invitation. Come back to celebrate that book too
Thank you.
in the series when it's ready. In the meantime, let's tell everybody where they can go to learn more about the Magic Library of Waterfall Way and find out more about you.
So you can find out more about me on social media, of course. I'm on Instagram at Julie Abe Books. And then, of course, I have a website and a newsletter. But my Instagram is where you can find, like, you know, posts about me struggling through my next project, getting a lot of work done before I finally get that seal of approval, right? So yes, definitely come find me on Instagram or my newsletter. And my book is available to order wherever books are sold. Awesome. And I really hope you get the deluxe edition because I think
it's adorable. It really is
really
nice.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. We've had a great time speaking to the author of The Magic Library of Waterfall Way. Our guest has been Julie Abe. Julie, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, Jed.
Hey, my friends, I want to tell you about a coffee company I recently discovered that really lines up with the values we talk about right here at Reading with Your Kids. It's called Frera Coffee Company, and they're doing things the right way. The coffee is sourced directly from certified Rainforest Alliance farms in Central and South America, with a big focus on farms in El Salvador. I love El Salvador. They work directly with local farmers, support sustainable farming practices, and even use recyclable and combustible packaging. Now, all of that would already make me feel good about supporting them, but honestly, the coffee itself, it's fantastic. You can really taste the quality. The beans are grown in rich volcanic soil and carefully roasted, so the flavor really comes through smooth, rich, and super aromatic. Now, whether you're somebody who loves a strong espresso to get moving in the morning, or you prefer a lighter roast while reading a good book, Frera has something you're going to enjoy. And this is kind of beautiful. 5% of all their sales goes to charities helping conserve and preserve the great outdoors. So if you'd like to try coffee that tastes amazing and supports good people doing good work, head on over to afreracoffee.com. That's AFUERA coffee.com, and use the promo code READ to get an exclusive 15% off your order. And of course, when you use the code, you're also helping support the podcast. Great coffee and helping families grow closer together. I call that a pretty magical way to start your day. This episode of Reading with Your Kids is sponsored by Ramble Office. You know, before I tell you about Ramble Office, let me tell you about what travel used to look like for me. When I take the Reading with Your Kids studio on the road, it was like a lot. I had one box for the mixer, another case for microphones, a satchel for my laptop, cables everywhere. And I always felt like I was forgetting something. That's why Ramble Office really clicked with me. Rambo takes everything I used to juggle, tech gear, personal stuff, and puts it into one smart, great-looking unit that's designed to be a mobile office, not just luggage. Everything has a place. Everything stays protected. And when you get to where you're going, you're ready to work. Instead of digging through bags or repacking your life every time you move, Ramble keeps your setup organized and ready to deploy. Travel days stop being chaos and start being productive. It's sleek, modern, built for people whose work doesn't stop just because they're on the move. And if your job follows you, whether that's podcasting, teaching, consulting, or creating, Ramble is worth a look. Go to rambleofficeanywhere.com, all one word, rambleofficeanywhere.com. Use the promo code READ, R-E-A-D, and receive 5% off any product. It's exclusive for Reading with Your Kids listeners. Check it out today, rambleofficeanywhere.com, promo code READ. Join us right now from Columbus in the wonderful state of Ohio. Our guest is here today to celebrate her debut middle grade novel. It's called Weeper. Please welcome to the show, Fran Litch. Fran, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Jed, for inviting me on your podcast. I'm both delighted and excited. And I think what you do for children and parents is absolutely wonderful. And equally wonderful is what you do for authors whose works would probably remain buried sometimes under some algorithm. So I do appreciate that as well. Thank you.
Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. It has been an absolute joy for me to do this podcast since 2017. I've met so many fascinating people, both indie authors and giants of the literary world, giants of science, of Hollywood and music. It's been a blast, and so I feel very, very blessed to have been called to do this podcast by powers more powerful than I.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So tell us about Weeper. Who are we going to meet in this novel?
Okay, so Weeper is the fictional story of a little boy named Michael Morton, who has lost both his mother through cancer and then subsequently his grandfather, who was caring for him, via heart attack. And he's very lonely, and he finds comfort in drawing superheroes and confiding in a weeping willow. But he has an additional problem. He's being bullied at school. And so that compounds everything. And one day when he is sitting under Weeper, he notices that there's a squirrel that goes into the tree and disappears. And like most little boys, he's curious. So he climbs the tree to see what the den looks like. And the branch gives, he falls, hits his head, and has what we would call an NDE, near-death experience, during which he meets his deceased mother, who gives them a lot of advice and tells him about a key that he once found in his father's drawer that he needs to look for, because that will unlock some secrets that will help him navigate through the bullying that he's facing.
Wow. This is really fascinating. I think this you grabbed my attention, and I'm sure we grabbed the attention of the young readers.
Well, the children appear to love it. The teachers tell me they don't want to stop reading. And when I do Zoom calls, they have a zillion questions, which I enjoy answering. And it's always my pleasure. I offer them a half-hour Zoom call to either talk about the writing process or to talk about the actual story. And it's something that's near and dear to my heart, because there is so much bullying in our schools. I mean, national statistics from the CDC says that one out of 5 actually between the ages of 10 and 18 gets bullied in school. Mm-hmm. And of those students, only 40% will talk about it or report it.
Yeah.
So it's reached an epidemic level, and I think it's time that we do talk about it. A lot of schools have implemented rules on how to proceed if someone is being bullied, but they've never mandated any kind of curriculum that would force the classroom to listen to stories of bullying and address the questions that are most in their minds regarding what do I do, who do I tell, how do I go about dealing with this. So I wrote this story, and within the story, I've weaved some advice for the children. And you can find this summed up at the end of the book. If you want it, just go to the end of the book and look for the advice on what do I do to maybe circumvent the bullying or navigate through it. And the story is very interesting. And there are three kinds of characters in the story. There's the bully, there's the person being bullied, but there's also the bystander.
Yeah,
they have a role in this as well. So what should be their position in all of this? Yeah. Should they intervene or not? Yeah. So these are all questions that children have, and that can be addressed in the classroom after a reading, during a reading, whenever,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. You mentioned, that this is now an epidemic. It's unfortunate because way back in the early 2000s, I made a living doing educational magic shows for 35 years, and for probably 25 of those were spent doing shows about bullying. And one of the biggest problems I think we have in our schools when it comes to teaching these social lessons is that I think teachers get bored. And it's like, oh yeah, we did that bullying stuff last year, so we need to do something. And I've seen it. When I started my career doing these shows, I was brought in. The Boston Public Schools asked me to do a show encouraging kids to say no to drugs, to make healthy choices. And I said, yeah, great. And this was great. In a couple of years, that was a very popular show. And then all of a sudden it was like, we need to address alcohol. Could you talk about kids about alcohol? And they stopped talking about the drugs and we started talking about alcohol. Great. Then it was cigarettes. And at that point I said, why don't we just talk to kids about making healthy choices?
Right.
And school started calling about the bullying, and it kind of went through the same cycle. And I realized after a few years, we really need to talk to kids about building a culture of respect in their schools. And,
yes.
That was in the late 20-teens. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, and it sounds like we've gone back to square one.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's a real problem.
Yeah.
And just to give you an example, when I was a school teacher, and that was 13 years ago, I retired after 30 years of teaching. I had a student in one of my classes who was being bullied and decided to bring a gun to school. He was going to settle the matter himself.
Uh-huh.
Fortunately for the bully, he didn't attend school that day.
Yeah.
So something was averted right there. But the bully also told one of his friends that he had the gun, had placed it in his locker. So, of course, they called the police department and found the gun, and the bully was removed from the school system. But do we need to wait for a crisis like that before we address the situation? What if we provided students with the tools they need to articulate their feelings about what's going on in the school system?
Yep.
But let's do it in such a way that we're not pointing fingers at anyone in the classroom. How about if we use fiction as the means to introduce the tools that we need to navigate through the bullying? What if they're reading a story that apparently they seem to enjoy, and they can either find themselves in the story or find others, like find the bully? There are a lot of programs that were implemented. There's the kindness program that's implemented in a lot of schools. It's optional. But do you really think that the bully's going to sign up for the class? He's the last person who's going to sign up for the class. He's the one who probably needs it the most.
Sure. Yep.
So what happens is it doesn't help the people who need the help. So I decided to create a story that had no retaliation in it, because oftentimes the people who are reading the book are waiting for when Michael gets his revenge. But it never happens. There's something very nice. There's a twist in there that people will enjoy. There's no retaliation. There's more reconciliation than retaliation. And it has to do with finding the superpower that each one of us has. If you look for the good in others and you try to bring it out, you'll make more friends than enemies.
Yeah.
And oftentimes the things that you discover are things that you have in common with the bully.
Sure.
You would be surprised at how many people have told me, my bully is now my best friend.
Sure.
I mean, you wouldn't think that, but it happens.
Yes.
There are also a lot of adults who are reading this book, though it was meant for middle graders. a lot of adults are reading it and are telling me that it reminds them of when they went to school and how they were bullied and how it affected them. And still to this day, they carry the remnants of that with them. And some have told me, I was never bullied. Personally, I was never bullied as a child. I had 3 brothers and 3 sisters. I think that helped too. But I was never bullied, and I couldn't relate to that. I remember when my son came home one day crying, telling me that he was being bullied on the bus. And that's where I got part of my inspiration for the story. I did what most parents do. Boys will be boys. Let it go. Tomorrow's another day. You know, if I get involved, then tomorrow they'll be playing together and I'll look like a fool, you know. So, you know, it'll work itself out. It's part of growing pains and whatnot. That was mistake number 1. When someone talks to you about being bullied, it's always a call for help.
Sure. Yeah.
Or a cry for help, as was the case here. So I let it go. A week passed. He walks in crying. He was about 9 years old. And he said, I'm going to get a knife and I'm going to hurt those kids. And I said, whoa, okay, you've got my attention. Okay, tell me what happened. He was, once again, bullied on the bus. And it was not just one person. It was 4 people who were bullying him. And so I listened carefully and I decided to go talk to the parents. And the parents told me, why didn't you tell us before? We would have nipped it in the bud. We can do something about this. We'll have a conversation with our children and, you know, it'll work itself out. So the next day, my son came home and I said, how was it on the bus today? Did they bother you? No, everything went well. Great. Okay. And then I let it ride. That was my second mistake. I should have kept on following up.
Sure.
Because who knows what happened after that? Did the kids tease him? Did they say, oh, are you going to tell mommy again? You know, what happened? I have no idea. It wasn't until my son, who's now 47, by the way, it wasn't until he was an adult that I found out that the bullying stopped, but only for a while, and then it resumed. So how much more did he have to put up with that I wasn't aware of?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you caught it. I'm glad he didn't do anything to hurt those kids and hurt and ruin his life. It is, you know, you bring up a good point. One of the things that I believe we need to do in schools is to teach the bystanders. You mentioned there are 3 groups, the kid who's the target, the bully, and then the bystanders. And if we can teach the bystanders to say something, and to do something, and again, build that culture of respect. That's a great way to stop the bullying, to let the bullying know, no, we're not going to put up with it. We're not going to sit back and just watch you. We're not going to cheer you on. We're not going to think that you're cool, and just get everybody involved. But it's not easy. It's tough. It's a very tough situation.
It is.
You mentioned before we hit record that, during your Zoom sessions, your Zoom visits with kids ask you the most wonderful questions. Tell us about some of those questions that your book gets kids curious about. What's the toughest question that a kid has asked you?
Well, it wasn't a tough question, but it was a surprising question because I wrote about a near-death experience in the book. And one of the students stood up and said he had had a near-death experience. I never expected that.
Wow, yeah.
And he had never shared that with anyone. But see, that was something that now he could talk about because it validated what had happened to him.
Sure.
So many people they'll think I'm crazy or apparently he got stung by a bee at a baseball game. And he ran up some flight of stairs and all of a sudden he fell. And he said, I felt myself coming out of my body and I could see myself lying on the staircase.
Wow.
He said, I was in the corner, whatever that corner was, inside some building or what, I don't know. I was in the corner and I was looking down at my body, But he said it didn't last but 4 seconds, and I was sucked back into my body. And then I was back to, resuscitated, I guess. So then that was surprising. It was interesting. But there are all kinds of questions, mostly about Brad. Why is he bullying? Why is he bullying Michael? And so there were so many questions about Brad. And would I write a story about Brad and tell us about Brad's story? I did. And I have here, this is Weeper. I don't know if you can see it there. This is Weeper. I have a little bit of a glare here. And this is Weeper Brad's story. Now, this addresses substance abuse.
Okay.
So we have in the first book, we have actual bullying, teasing and taking people's money away from them and making fun of people and that kind of thing. Not necessarily hitting or punching or anything like that. More so like tripping people, trying to make them look foolish or whatever. In the second book, it's more about living with someone who's dealing with substance abuse. Not necessarily himself, but his parents.
Yeah. And there's so many kids all across the country who are dealing with that. They have a parent that's abusing alcohol or other substances, and it can really affect their lives in major ways.
Yes. And do you know that it's 1 out of 4?
I did not know that statistic, but it does not surprise me.
Yeah, it's 1 out of 4. And the sad thing about it is that those people are told that what happens in the house stays in the house. We don't tell anybody. What they don't know can't hurt them.
Right.
No one will know if you don't say anything, but people do know.
Right.
I mean, obviously, they can hear the slurred speech. They can smell the breath, the boozy breath, if we're dealing with alcohol. If it's something else, drugs, that's a whole different matter. So people do know. And if people could only speak to someone about it, if they only knew there were resources out there for them, like Al-Anon, for example, children of spouses and children of those who drink can go to these meetings and first of all realize that they're not alone.
Yep.
They have support and get some kind of tools to help them through this. It would be so much easier for them instead of spending their life trying to hide it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. There are a lot of kids that, and your conversation tonight just reminds us that there are a lot of kids suffering out there that need our help. And your kid could be best friends with somebody like that. And and if you find out about it, see if you can get them some help. Yeah. We should tell everybody where they can go, Fran, to find out more about Weeper, find out more about Weeper Brad's story, and find out more about you.
FranLitch.com.
That's pretty simple.
And all the links will be there. It'll take you to Amazon.com, or it'll take you to Ingram Spark if you're an educator or a retailer or a librarian.
And is that the place to go if a teacher would like to organize a Zoom visit from you?
Absolutely. Or she could contact me at franlitch.com.
We've had a great time, a powerful time, speaking to the author of Weeper and Weeper Brad's story. Our guest has been Fran Litch. Fran, thank you so much for being here, but also thank you much for the years that you spent teaching kids.
Thank you so much, and thank you for what you do.
We hope you've enjoyed this episode of Reading with Your Kids and will join us for the next exciting episode of the show. As always, if this episode made you smile and gave you something to think about, please consider sharing a link to the show with someone you love. Leave a 5-star review and, of course, subscribe to the show wherever you find your favorite shows. Also, welcome you to join us on social media, facebook.com/Reading with Your Kids, at Reading with Your Kids on Instagram, at Gently Magic on X. our YouTube channel, youtube.com/readingwithyourkids, and our website, it's readingwithyourkids.com. Want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful, starting with our guest, Julie Abe. Please be sure to check out the Magic Library of Waterfall Way. I also want to thank Fran Litch. Please be sure to check out Weeper. I want to thank my incredible team, Daylene Rose, Advina Lopez, Chris Doherty. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the love and support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place and to give your kids what they really are looking for, your undivided attention and love. And you do that every single time you read with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next episode of Reading with Your Kids.